we are having our Fall Prevention Forum, and it's brought to you by LifePath and some special guests today. We are celebrating Fall Prevention Awareness Week, and LifePath participates in falls prevention in so many of our different programs, which you will hear today. And we partner with many people in the community also around fall prevention. So you'll hear from a couple of those people today and perhaps hear about more of the resources, farther and wider than what you will see here. So what we will be talking about are learning some tips and tricks. We'll understand how exercises increase strength and flexibility. We'll hear how home modification makes where you live safer. And we'll also hear about the wealth of community resources meant to help keep you and the ones you love safe from falls or after a fall, perhaps what you may want to be doing for yourself or others. And so our speakers today will be Andy Weissman, who is LifePath's Healthy Living Program Manager. We will hear from Jane Trosen from the YMCA. She's their Director of Fitness and Director of Social Responsibility. We'll hear from our very own Melissa Sonia, who is LifePath's Home Care Director. We'll also be hearing from our very own Mark Devlin, who's been with us with a couple of different programs, but is our new Home Safety Program Director, which is very exciting. We'll also hear from Liz Milner from Bay State Medical Center. She's a physical therapist with them. And we'll also be hearing from Regina Kaufman, who's a professor and interim co-chair of the physical therapy department at Springfield College. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Andy Weissman.
Good morning, everybody. So I want to just do a little bit of overview of falls prevention, tell a little bit about the program that the department, Healthy Living, provides, and then we're going to ask you to go into the chat and add a few of your thoughts. Okay, so approximately a third of older adults will fall at least once a year. I want to note also that means 2/3 of older adults do not. Many of those falls, 20 to 30%, result in injury. Again, most don't. And obviously falls are a leading cause. It's a problem and we worry about it, and it causes it's one of the major causes of injury that results in hospitalization. So many of us know that, and we have a solid fear of falling. And one of the programs that I run is A Matter of Balance, which addresses that fear, because when we're afraid of falling, it actually causes another risk factor. So the fear of falling is associated with depression, decreased mobility and social activity, increased frailty. And then, of course, our risk for falls increases because we get deconditioned and we're less active. So it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately. Okay, next slide, Miss Carol. So what we're going to mostly cover, though, is our ability to prevent them. So that's the big message I want to give, is that we can prevent a fall. A large portion of falls are preventable. Not all of them, but a large proportion are. They're caused by a variety of issues, which we're about to look at. But research has shown that by taking an intervention or doing something, we actually can make a difference. So the one program I run that I want to tell you about is A Matter of Balance. We've been doing this for over a decade, and it's an 8-week class. And the goal is for folks to leave feeling more confident in their ability to prevent a fall, less afraid, and more in control. We set realistic goals around activity. The idea is we leave with an exercise plan in hand. We leave with behavior changes around our home, other risky habits that we do. We have group discussion. We do problem solving. We study assertiveness because our ability to speak up has been linked to fall prevention. And we do a little bit of exercise training, mostly very light, mostly just to introduce the idea of exercise and get folks going to then make a plan for a future exercise program. Next slide, please. So what I want to spend the next few minutes talking about are what we know about what causes falls and what we can do to prevent them. and then I'm going to ask you to do some thinking. So this is the LifePath publication from many years ago, and it's awesome. And basically, it divides risk factors into 3 categories: biological risks, behavioral risks, and environmental risks, which we're going to look at in detail now. So here's some medical or biological risk factors. So as we age, we absolutely lose our what's called proprioception, our brain's connection to our extremities, and that happens over time. So just aging does cause a little bit of challenge. Confusion, dementia, depression can be related, muscle weakness. And I know you all can read this. So what my challenge is as we go is for you to think, what of these characteristics relate to you? Which of these can you speak to you? Because my next question is then, what do you need to do to prevent a fall? So if we're dizzy when changing positions, medication side effects and having multiple medications is a risk for falls. Other chronic conditions, our vision is related to falls, our ability to see. Sometimes a new set of glasses or bifocals can be linked to a fall. Neuropathy or feet, if loss of sensation in our feet or other foot problems. Dehydration is an important medical risk that folks don't always know. Having incontinence, having to rush to the bathroom, problems with blood pressure. Those are all various medical risks that are linked to falls. And I think you guys will have access to these slides after, so you'll get this information later. Next slide, please. So here are some things that we have control over, our behavioral risks that are linked to falls. So inactivity is one of the hugest ones. So I'm so glad Jane is here because we're going to talk a lot about what we can do to stay active. Taking risks that are, I don't want to say silly, taking risks sometimes can be linked to falls, like standing on a chair that's wobbly to reach something or put up our curtains. Alcohol and substance abuse can be linked. Poor judgment, rushing to the phone or doorbell. So, some of the things that are under our control are also linked to falls. And in our class at Matter of Balance, we have a whole session on what we call faulty habits. Okay, Carol, last slide for this section. Okay, and then here's some environmental risks that Mark's going to get to tell us a lot about. So clutter, unclear pathways, broken steps or poor repair, poor lighting is a big one, loose rugs, electrical cords in the way, lack of grab bars in the bathroom, or especially many falls happen within our home and within just a small confined area, just to not have something to grab on when we lose our balance. Wet surfaces, footwear, and having just small children and pets around are also some of the risk factors. So Carol, go to the next slide. And I know that's a lot of information to take in, but this is the slide we're going to study for the next 5 minutes. I think I can have access to the chat. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to look at this slide for a few minutes. And then in the chat, I have put a link to a little survey that just asks you, given what all this is, given what I've just gone over, what do you need to prevent a fall? What do you need? And we're going to look at the results in just a second. So here are some, this is not an exhaustive list. There's a lot other things as well, but this is the summary. Given the factors we just looked at, here are some of the things that we can do to prevent a fall. So I'm not going to read them. I'm just going to ask you to look at them. And when you're ready, does everybody see in the chat that link to a survey? So if you would go ahead and just click on that survey, we're going to just look at this slide and do that. And then in a few moments, I'm going to bring up.
Sorry, this is just what you should be looking at when you pull up that survey.
And they ask similar questions. So you just check all the ones that you think, for you, what do you need to prevent a fall? These are the tips. These are the things we can do to help prevent it. What are the ones that you need to tackle? What do you need to prevent a fall? And what are you hoping to learn from today's panel? Kate, could you make me co-host, and I'm going to share results?
Yes, you should be already co-host, Andy.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I say thank you to Marcia and Norm, who chatted, encouraging friends to take this program. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Carol, we're going to stop your screen sharing and go to the results. So just so you can see what people said, we have 3 responses. So some folks want to get a medication review. Some folks need to drink more water. Sorry about that. Some folks need to get 2, at least, probably many more of us need to get an exercise program. I hope you're hearing that, Jane Trosen. We need to modify our home environment, get a personal emergency response system. So here's some things that people are hoping to get from the panel. They want to see Mark. Go, Mark Devlin. I want to see whether there are things that I have not thought of, and just want to get general help with balance. Thanks, you guys, so much. This is great. Okay, Carol, I'm turning it back over.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andy, for that great overview. I know I learned a couple of things through that. 3 different areas where falls prevention can stem from as the number one. Jane Trosen from the YMCA. I see that you're here, and we have you next. Are you ready for us?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you.
Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate LifePath for putting this panel together. And I just wanted to say a couple things. One is we actually are not the YMCA in Greenfield anymore. We are called Franklin County's Y. So we service all 26 towns in Franklin County. So I just want everyone to be aware of this. It's just not just Greenfield. I appreciate that you guys doing that little quiz thing to say that I know people are looking for exercise specific programs. First, I just want to start about the YMCA program. So our flagship program is called Prescribe the Y, and it's a 12-week program that you are referred over by your doctor. So your doctor you guys can be talking about, maybe you need a little exercise. It's 12 weeks. It starts with a consultation. So it's a one-on-one with myself or some of the other people that work in this department. And we just decide what would be the best fit for you exercise-wise, putting you into an already existing YMCA program. So for example, when I think about balance, I think about people fearful of it. Maybe going into the pool might be a pool class called water therapy would be the best way to go, because you tend not to fall in the pool. Everybody does wear a flotation device. So, and you stay in the shallow end, I should say. So that might be a way to go. We also have, we have classes, we have machines, we have people that can help you. We have financial aid available. So it's very economical. It's very affordable. So please ask your doctor for a referral, or just call me, The other program, our flagship class, is called Enhanced Fitness, which is an evidence-based program. It used to be for people mainly with balance, but they've switched the focus to, it's also for people with arthritis. So 2 ways that this is done. It's done actually at the Y physically, but we also have a virtual component. So that means, just like you guys are Zooming here right now, that the class could arrive in your living room. I have a free program going, so I'm going to give access to the community to be able to get that Zoom link to do this particular class. There is some paperwork that's involved with it, but I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that, because again, it's a free program. It meets 3 times a week. In fact, I did have one of my instructors is actually on this call, so I'm so happy, Sue Shaba. So that also works on your balance, but it's movement. It's basic movement, which everybody needs, no matter what ails you. Everybody needs to move for everything. So this gives you access to movement. Another program we have, which is free here, it's called Walk with Ease. That's one thing most doctors just say, why don't you just walk? So the program here is actually led by an instructor. It's 3 days a week. They only walk about, less than a mile, but it's nice. It's being with a group. There's usually a topic that the instructor talks through. That's a free program. And we just started it last week, and it's going to go for another 6 weeks. So we are going to go into the fall, and we have some nice weather. We walk around downtown Greenfield. It's fabulous. Call me. I'm looking for more people. I'd love to have them. Right at this moment, we have another program that I'm having leaders get trained. And if Regina will probably be talking about this from Springfield College, the Tai Chi Quan, which is a Moving for Better Balance. It's a program. It's research-based balance program. It's movement, but it's based on the Tai Chi principles that teaches Tai Chi, but it's about balance, and it's for older adults who are at risk for falling. That's going to be a free program, and hopefully once the mask mandate gets lifted, because we still are in the pandemic, that will be offered live here at the YMCA free. Other area I would call your local Council on Aging. A lot of the senior centers are open now, or they are also doing virtual programming. So please touch base with them because there's stuff going on. The other program, Healthy Bones and Balance, that's put on through RSVP. I know that is going again in the area, again through virtual, and that's another class that meets, which is great to get plugged into. And I think, I just have one more thing else I wanted to say, Andy, about the YMCA. Also, everybody needs to get some strength. We have exercise machines as well as classes. We have a machine, it's called a New Step. So when you were talking about people that have neuropathy in their feet, so this is actually a machine where you sit and you do your arms and legs at the same time, and you work your heart, and you also strengthen your legs, and it's beautiful. And I have 3 of them and people love them, and that's another way. So you're safe, you're not walking, maybe your knees hurt. So this is a good way to work out too. So call me. I'm Jane from the Y. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andy. That's it.
That was a great in the nutshell from about the Franklin County Y. Thank you for setting us straight on that. And Jane, all those programs sound so wonderful. And, of course, it's always helpful when they're free and people can take advantage of them. And if they're seeing their doctor anyway, to be having those conversations with their physicians or the nurses there and that sort of thing. And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself out there, because you know what you need in the moment. And as things are, coming up for you or the people you love, you want to keep them safe. So having those conversations really are important to your safety and, for the people around you. So thank you, Jane, and for all the programs that you're offering and how we, connect with you. We love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so up next we have Melissa Sonia, who is the director of our of LifePath's home care program, and she will be talking to us about how fall prevention is woven into our home care services.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much, and thanks for Andy for inviting me to the panel. So again, I am Melissa Sonia. I am the home care program director at LifePath, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, just very briefly, about the home care program in general, and then about some of the services that we offer that directly help with falls and both falls prevention and recovery. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of the indirect ways that some of our services can help with falls prevention. Next slide. Yes, so goals of home care. So the goals of home care very much align with the overall goals of LifePath. So our goal is to provide services to elders in our community so that they can live in their homes for as long as possible and as independently as possible. So definitely falls prevention is a big piece of that, as falls can put you at risk of having to go to the hospital and go to rehab facilities. So we are definitely very passionate in home care about falls prevention. And then sort of our secondary goal is also providing information and support. So if you are enrolled in the home care program, you will have a case manager, and sometimes depending on the services you have, you might also have a nurse that will be basically a source of support for you. So if you have questions about your service, questions really about anything that you need, the case manager will try to connect you to some ways to assist you. Next slide, please. So for fall prevention and recovery, anyone who's enrolled in the home care program is eligible for a variety of services that will help prevent falls, as well as some services that will assist with fall recovery. Next slide. So one of our most popular services is foot care by nurses. So a lot of the services within the home care program are services that we sort of contract out with. So we don't directly employ the nurses. They are employed by this company called Foot Care by Nurses. So a lot of you might be familiar with them. I think they, I don't know if during the pandemic they've still gone to the Greenfield Senior Center, but I know they've traditionally been there. Again, very popular service. I would say like almost every single person that has the service raves about it. So most people will get the nurse coming to their house every 6 to 8 weeks. Some people might be every month. Some people might be every 3 months. You know, really depends on how much foot care you need. And basically the nurse will sort of do a full assessment of your feet, your lower legs, looking at shoes and socks, looking at your balance. So they really try to do a whole comprehensive picture of how things are going with your feet and your lower legs, and you know, ways that they can help you to prevent falls. You know, if you have, there's all kinds of foot issues that you could have that could cause pain. You could have corns, like etc. And anything like that could cause you to potentially curl your toes or walk on a different angle of your foot. And anytime that that's a little bit off, then your gait can be off, which means your balance can be off. So it's all connected. And in those situations, you can be more likely to fall. So the nurses at Foot Care by Nurses are really going to look closely at that and try to help figure out how to prevent falls just based on what's going on with your feet. They will do, they call it a circulation enhancing massage at the end. And we've had people say it's basically like a really great foot massage. So, you know, they're very friendly and personable. They will refer you out to a podiatrist if you have, you know, a foot issue that they can't treat. So they're really great. And they're focusing again on that biological piece of falls prevention. The next slide. So we also have a service called the MD2 machine. So this is a little bit different than, you know, a service of someone coming into your home. This is basically a machine that your case manager would order for you, and it can help dispense your medications. So we had seen in one of Andy's previous slides that if you take 4 or more medications, you're at a higher risk of falls. And, you know, we definitely have some people that are taking 10, even 20 medications in their regimen. And that's definitely, you know, a lot to keep up with. I can say personally, times I've had to take more than a few, I have also needed to use a pill box. It can be very challenging to remember. So if you're taking really a lot and the pill box, you know, seems to be also too much to deal with, we have this medication dispensing machine. So there's a picture of it here. And basically, either you can pre-fill it yourself or you can have a family member or friend pre-fill it. We can try to get a nurse to help fill it for you. It fits up to 60 doses and it can dispense, I believe, up to 6 times a day. So basically your medications will just be filled in the back in little cups and they're loaded in. And then anytime that it's time to take a medication, the machine will verbally say to you, it's time to take your medication. And if you see in this on the slide, there's a big red button right on the front. When the machine tells you to take your medication, you just press the red button and the little cup comes down the slide on the left here. And there's your medication to take. So you really don't even have to think about it once it's all loaded in there. So this is a great service too. Something to be aware of if you live in a more rural area, sometimes there can be some challenges connecting it. It does connect with your phone somehow. You can definitely still use it, even if it doesn't totally connect up. It's just, you might have to make an extra phone call if you need troubleshooting. But again, if there is any problems with it, you could let your case manager know. So this is another popular service. You know, it's very easy to make a medication error if you're taking a lot of meds, and this kind of eliminates that. And so it is definitely a way to help prevent falls. Next slide. Thank you. And so I did speak a little bit about nursing assistance. If you would need a nurse to help you fill the MD2, we have that option. Even if you just need a nurse to fill a regular pill box, we have that too. we've had definitely a shortage of some of our home health aide type workers. So we've offered nursing to some of our clients during the pandemic just to have a monthly check-in. They can check vitals, they check weight, basically just check in on how you're doing. And they can also be a great resource for trying to prevent falls. Next slide. So those are the most direct services that home care provides that help with falls prevention. But we also have the Personal Emergency Response System, abbreviated to PERS, and that helps with falls recovery. So a lot of people, when you hear PERS, you might say like, what is that? But it's more often commonly known as a lifeline button. So, you may have seen the commercials on television, like I've fallen and I can't get up. And so it's that you can have a necklace style PERS or one on your wrist. And basically, if you have a fall or you're having really any other medical event, you can press the button. Some of the buttons will have like a voice coming out of the button directly asking if you need help. Other styles, there will be something else that you plug basically into your phone, or it connects somehow with the phone. Or LifePath does not install them directly, so I don't know all of those details. But someone would come to your house to install it. And basically either the voice from a call center would come directly from the button or from like the tabletop unit to ask if you're okay, do you need help? If you don't respond, then they'll automatically send the EMTs. And if you do respond, you can, tell them what happened and what you think you might need. They're very fast. We've also heard from clients, they feel like it's faster than 911 sometimes. Regardless of whether you have a landline phone or a cellular phone, you can get a PERS. We also pretty recently have what's called a mobile PERS. So traditionally, the PERS would only work like in your house and maybe a little bit into your yard, but the mobile PERS will work anywhere out in the community. So that's a really great feature. Definitely creates some more confidence, I think, in getting out in the community. We have PERS with the falls detection option. So that would be if you have a fall, the PERS automatically detects it and the EMTs would be called. It does have to be a heavy fall. If you just had a fall where you kind of slid out of your chair, it's not going to get activated. So just something to keep in mind, you would still have to press it. I will answer Andy's question. Who should you contact if you need one of these? Oh, actually, I will get to that. I think in my a couple slides away, I will get to that. So all of the PERS are waterproof. So a lot of times we have people, take them off because they're like, oh, I can't take it in the shower, but you can take it in the shower. They are all waterproof. The shower is, a very likely place to have a fall. So most people never even have to use the PERS. We get reports from the PERS companies that we work with that will say, how many people and who has had falls. And the vast majority of people don't even have a fall, but it is great just to have it just in case you do. Next slide. And then we also have some more indirect falls prevention. So a lot of our clients have a personal care worker who will help them, with tasks like bathing and dressing. They might have a homemaker who will help them with some housework and getting meals ready and doing laundry. So just having this person providing other service can help prevent falls in just a few indirect ways. So for example, they could, walk to your mailbox and get your mail, which might be very far. Or, again, if you live in one of the hill towns or another smaller town, it could be somewhat treacherous, even in the good weather, to try to get your mail. That's something that they could do. And then it would help, prevent you from taking that journey to have a fall. They could help you reach high places so that you wouldn't have to stand on a stool or a ladder. And if there's anything even that they see in your home, if they notice like, oh, I'm helping you to use the bathroom and seems like it would be great if you had a grab bar or a raised toilet seat. That's something that they would then communicate to your case manager, and the case manager could order you that. So I think Mark might talk a little bit about some of that equipment, but that is also something that home care can do. We can, order all those adaptive equipment items like that. We can also help with walkers, so the grab bars, etc. Next slide. So how do you get all these wonderful services? So you would have to enroll in our home care program. So that kind of answers Andy's question. So if you need the PERS and you're eligible for home care, that's a great way to get it. Home care, the cost for home care is a sliding scale fee. So it depends on your income. So if you have a very low income, you might not have a copay. So basically, if you want to enroll in the home care program, you can call LifePath's main number, and I have both the Franklin County and Worcester area numbers listed. And then when you actually have someone answer the call, just say that you are interested in making a home care referral. And it looks like I already answered Carol's question about if the aid is self-pay or income qualified. So yes, it is income qualified. We do have some people that have a much higher income and they might be paying a significant portion of their home care service, but really the benefit is they get that case management, and sometimes they will get that nursing support as well. So we definitely love to have new clients on. These are great services. We never run out of the PERS or the MD2. Like, those are very easy for us to get. So yeah, then that's my spiel about home care program. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Yeah, and I do want to just sort of hammer home that point that LifePath, while we do serve lower income elders, we do have programs that serve people who are willing to and wish to pay for these kinds of services that will keep them safer in their home for longer. And there are all kinds of reasons why people might want to do that. They don't have family around, or they don't have other kinds of supports. And so making the call to LifePath is one of those things that, really could make a difference. So I think the point is always give us a call, 773-5555 or 978-544-2259. If you have questions, if you have inquiries, if you want to clear something up, if you just are curious about something, we can definitely put you in touch with our information and caregiver resource center that can answer any kind of question that you might have about continuing to be independent in your home and community. And so with that, let's turn this over to Mark Devlin to talk about a new and exciting program that is on the rise here. Mark.
Thank you, Carol. I hope that my internet behaves for the few minutes that I'm going to speak, and I'll just confess my jealousy of Melissa's program right up front. Mine is a little more of coming soon to an elder services agency near you. This is a lot of hope and forthcoming, but I think you'll see how it can complement what we're doing in home care. Next slide, please, Carol. So what I want to cover relatively quickly is who am I, why am I here, what is meant by the general term home safety, because we're kind of redefining home repair. LifePath programming information under the title of home safety, and how might you benefit. So next slide, please. My slides are a little busy, but I'll try to call out what I was hoping to convey to you. So I happen to be a baby boomer in this large and aging group born in the mid 40s to mid 60s. And you may well have heard that the count of US citizens over the age of 65 is going to double, and is in the process of doing so in the coming years. And so I'm both part of the problem and excited to be part of the solution. I come to this work from many years in financial services, where I was, among other responsibilities, responsible for quality and process improvement. Please let me know if I'm not able to be heard. I didn't ask that, but I'll trust that Carol or one of the other members of the team will let me know. General Electric, which at its core was a engineering organization, was focused on 6 Sigma quality that measures defects per millions. It's the kind of technology you hope someone's using when they're inventing a vaccine, and not the kind of technology you hope someone's using when they're fixing a set of broken stairs or putting a handrail in place, kind of thing. So this work is about improvement, not perfection. The Mark Twain quote that's a little tricky to read is continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. While working in this private industry, I've been organizing groups of volunteers to perform home improvement, using this activity as company team building exercises and a way for an organization to connect with its surrounding neighbors. So that's been really gratifying work for me, and I've been a part of a number of organizations. AmeriCare's Homefront is one in doing that work. Greater Springfield Senior Services is another. Which brings me to today, and I am the newly minted and first home safety program director for LifePath, and I am a certified aging in place specialist. So we'll jump to the next slide, please. So this term home safety, as I say, it really is a bit of a redefining home repair, because it's not as simple as can you fix it, can you install it? The focus is improvement. And that improvement happens around safety, functionality, and homeowner satisfaction. Starts with safety and starts with removing hazards and reducing risks. Moves into functional use of the home, not just getting through things like toileting and eating and the like, but what does the homeowner like to do? Where do they like to spend their time? Where do they like to read? So that gets to that last column of satisfaction. The approach here is one of person-centered, goal-oriented, and it's not the dude with the belt on his, with the hammer on his belt who's answering that question alone. This is a, not to be gender specific, this work is done in teams with clinicians as a member of that team, typically an occupational therapist, and the handy persons have been CAPS trained, or certified aging in place trained, to think about the individual first, to look for low cost, high impact modifications. Maybe we should rearrange before we repair. Maybe we should remove before we repair and replace. So, and all of that is directed first by the homeowner and next by the occupational therapist before anyone starts putting a screwdriver to any part of the home. And satisfaction and happiness, along with that functionality and reduced risk, is the goal. Next slide, please. So there's some big news on this front, and that's really what drove the creation of the position that I now occupy. At a national level, Housing and Urban Development, HUD, awarded $30 million last month towards this type of work, low income, elderly homeowner, aging in place. Carol made a point a few minutes ago, and I want to come back to that as well. If I don't forget, maybe I'll just make it right now. And that is LifePath's work locally. You know what, I'm going to hold off on that point. So locally, we were the only organization in partnership with Community Action Pioneer Valley in Massachusetts to be awarded some of this $30 million. So what am I trying to convey before I go to the bottom half of the page? HUD has embraced this age in place model, team approach, person-centered, and Community Action Pioneer Valley partnered with LifePath to put together a proposal for Franklin and Hampshire counties, and we were awarded $1 million of that $30 million, which we're really proud of and very excited about. So my point there is that it is low-income housing that's going to get us in this business, but LifePath is looking to use its staff clinicians and its volunteer power to do more of this work outside of the particulars of qualifying under the HUD grant. But let me talk for a moment about how the HUD grant program works in concept. It's similar to other programs in the market. There's one called Capable. So there are qualifications, age, income, home ownership. I won't get into those. There'll be an application and a review and a selection process. That's information. I can't speak to the particulars today. That will lead to an assessment. And that assessment is done by a team. That team will have an occupational therapist involved. It'll have a handy person looking for maximum impact, minimally invasive activities like no slip strips on stairs, like changing colors when surfaces are at different levels, other elements of safety that can be addressed by a non-licensed individual. And that team will also have a construction supervisor involved who will be looking for work that needs to be done by licensed professionals. So together that team moves to that step number 4, which is the goal setting by the occupational therapist from the homeowner's functional capabilities and desires of how to use the home and how to be in the home. And then the scope of work will be laid out. That work will be divided into 2 pieces, the point of that 5 and 6. The 5 is the work done by a volunteer crew, and that's directed by LifePath. 6 is the work performed by licensed contractors, and that's directed by Community Action Pioneer Valley. Importantly, this process comes back to the occupational therapist or a clinician to set to see if we did what we said we were going to do, and to see if it met the needs and expectations of the homeowner, improved safety, and so forth. Next slide, please, Carol. A lot of detail here that we don't want to get into, but just giving you a little bit of sense. If you look at that box just above the scale, the partner respective strengths of Community Action Pioneer Valley together with LifePath provide organic checks and balance. So technical people usually come in and they're, if you're a contractor, you're not, if you're an electrician, you're not checking the plumbing. And if you're an HVAC person, you're not checking the stairs and the handrail. So, you know, no offense to them, they're going to look to fix what they know how to fix. Volunteers can be really excited and can want to fix things because they think they know how, but they may not be, they may not meet the code, they may not be locally licensed, and we're going to keep those folks. We're going to attract them, we're going to be excited to involve them, and we're going to help to keep them safe and in check. But the volunteers help to reduce the labor costs associated with this work, which stretches the dollar in terms of the impact that can be realized on modifying the home where work needs to be done. Community Action has great experience with federal funding sources, including HUD directly, so they bring that strength, and they are the grantees, so they're leading this program. But they're relying on LifePath for the clinical involvement, the occupational therapist. Our 45 plus year history of working with older adults and person-centered programs and broad ranging services, and our great success in bringing volunteers in the local community to this kind of work. So we're really excited about this partnership. We don't yet have a start date from HUD. LifePath is bringing in about 25% of the $1 million in terms of covering our work. So really pretty cool stuff. Next slide, please. Oof, I'm a little over time. So in conclusion, hope is on the way. Aging in place is a federal, state, and national, it's a federal, state, and local conversation with real dollars coming into our county. The approach, as I say, is one that is more holistic than one type of repair person making one type of repair. It is person-centered and goal-oriented. It forces programs like ours, and this is what LifePath brings to Community Action, to get the low-hanging fruit first, to get those high-impact, low-cost items cleared before getting into widening doorways and redecorating, remodeling bathrooms and kitchens, even though that work can happen and can be funded. So LifePath is brand new to home safety as I'm defining it. We're really hoping this is a nice complement to the services that Melissa defined. And if you have immediate needs, you should still call LifePath. You may not get plugged through to me, but I'm happy if you'd like to, because there are many other services and programs in place that may help you with needs that this program is not yet up and running to prepare for. And as it relates to specific fall prevention tips and the like, I'm happy to contribute those in a little bit as we press on with our agenda. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Very exciting stuff. Lots of details there to consider. But I thought, one of the things that I'm thinking about as I'm thinking about Mark's words is that, change can be hard, but change can be exactly what you need to stay safe in your home. And so doing those things that he's saying about rearranging and really thinking about, the small projects that will make a difference in your house rather than needing to do like a huge renovation or anything is a great place to start to keep you there and safely. So thank you, Mark. Looking forward to more from this program. And we are going to welcome Regina Kaufman from Springfield College. Regina, I saw you pop in and we are so pleased to have you with us.
Well, thanks, Carol. I am really delighted to be here. I am a bit of a late addition to the program, and so I did not have time to send my slides ahead of time. But Carol, I wonder if I could share my own screen. Wonderful. Let me pull something up for you. And hopefully you are seeing that at this point. Let me make it big. All right, good, all good on the screen. So yes, I am Regina Kaufman. I'm a physical therapist and I'm a professor of physical therapy at Springfield College. I've run a small pro bono clinic there for many, many years, referred to at this point as the PT Community Mobility Clinic. And we have somewhat recently begun to offer, in addition to what we hope to return to post-pandemic when we get there, individualized treatment, we've begun to offer some standardized balance and falls risk reduction programs. And so I will get to talking about those shortly. I, again, apologize having not been able to attend the first part of the program if I do some repetition, but I did want to spend just a few minutes talking about what we know about what happens as we age, and this is true of all of us. At a certain point, what happens when we age, and then really focus on the thought that many of these things can be altered by exercise that ideally starts early and that ideally we do often. So let me go through a little bit of background with respect to some of our body systems and what happens as we mature and accumulate life experience. So what we know about muscle is that muscle, as a result of normal aging, gets smaller over time. Some of the fibers in our muscles drop out. Most of the fibers in our muscles start to shrink. Some of the neurologic wiring that drives our muscles begins to drop out. And as a result, we get weaker. We can't generate as much force. We can't generate as much force as quickly as we could when we were younger. And we tend to tire more quickly. At the same time, our skeletal systems start to change. Many of us develop, habitual postures that are not perfectly in line with what we might think of as ideal postures, but our bones change as well. Many of you are probably familiar with the term osteoporosis and the idea that with osteoporosis comes some thinning, some changing in the cellular structures of the bones so that they get a little bit weaker as well. Now, bony changes, in and of themselves don't necessarily put us at risk, but when we have bony changes and then we have something like a fall, we're more likely to sustain an injury such as a wrist fracture or a hip fracture. With respect to the cardiovascular system, in general terms, just like our skeletal muscles change, our cardiac muscle changes as well, right? The heart is a big, strong muscle, but it too gets a little bit stiffer over time. And as a result, its pumping capacity changes. And when we're not moving as much blood with as much efficiency, it's hard for us to sustain our normal and desired level of activities over time. And our lungs undergo some changes as well. Skeletal changes can reduce the stiffness of the chest wall. Filling our lungs completely depends on good mobility within the chest wall. And so if we have some restriction in rib cage movement, we don't have as much space that we can fill as we try to take deep, good breaths. And then the lungs themselves, again, get a little bit stiffer. And those two things combined mean that we're not moving as much air. And when we're not moving as much air, again, we're not feeding our muscles as efficiently, as effectively as we generally do when we're just a little bit younger, leading again to earlier fatigue than typical. And then our sensory systems, beyond our visual systems, which are really important to guiding all of our movement and our postural control responses, some of our other sensors are touch sensors, those sensors in our joints and our muscles that help us feel how we're moving. They get a little bit of a reduction in density as well. So our brains are not being fed with the same richness of sensory information that we depend on to drive really good movement. So those are the major systems. And when all of these things change over time, they can lead us to struggle with our balance. They can lead us to struggle with our walking, all of which I'm aware sounds really quite dour, quite negative. And I don't intend to be a mood buster this morning. So I'm going to move into the good news. And the good news is it doesn't have to be this way, right? Some of this is perhaps inevitable. We all are going to change as we grow older, no matter what. But the degree to which these changes occur can be modified in a very significant way by our pattern of activity, right? So the really good news is that when we exercise, we can reduce the magnitude of these changes across all of these systems and really keep ourselves moving optimally across our entire lifespan. And this is true to some extent, even when we have chronic conditions. So even when we have chronic conditions, and even as we, become one of those, very old adults, as we like to say in our lexicon, right? Exercise continues to remain effective if we do it at the right dose. So when we exercise at the right dose, our muscles stay stronger than if we don't exercise. And if we've lost strength, we can regain strength. The muscles stay bigger, their vascular supply stays better, and as a result, we maintain force and power, and we can improve, force and power if we've lost it. Same is true of our skeletal systems. When we do a good dose of weight-bearing exercise, we help our bone stay stronger. We help maintain the cellular integrity in our bones, and they stay stronger. They stay denser. They are less brittle. And the structures around our joints that hold those bones together, they maintain their strength, their flexibility, their elasticity. They're less prone to injury as well as a result of exercise training. That big heart muscle stays stronger, more elastic. It works better as well as a result of exercise. The stronger, the more elastic, the more efficient our heart is, the better job it does of helping us sustain activity over time. And the same is true of our respiratory system. The more we exercise, the better we maintain a good, functional, supportive lung capacity. These things happen, right, when we do a good dose of physical activity training. And so I'm going to encourage a couple of things this morning. If you are a person who's exercising, good for you, and I encourage you to keep it up. If you're a person who's not exercising, even if you're a person who's in, good shape at this point, I would really encourage you to think about adopting some exercise habits that you feel as though you can maintain over the relatively long term. Because what we know about exercise is that frequency, intensity, and duration are key. So a short dose of exercise may help promote some changes for the short term, but if we stop exercising, then the benefit of exercise goes away over time. Now, it doesn't really matter what kind of exercise we do. So I'm going to talk just briefly in a moment about some of the programs that we're offering and that I know are being offered across the Valley. Some include lots of different things, some cardiac work, some strengthening work, some flexibility work. Some really focus on consistent doses of walking. Some use arts like Tai Chi as a basis for their approaches to exercise. And it doesn't matter which one you choose. What matters is that you choose one and then that you keep it up. As long as the dose is therapeutic, the best exercise is the one that you'll do. So with respect to what's happening that I know of around the valley in kind of this western part of the state, so in my own clinic, we're offering 2 different programs. One is called Stay Active and Independent for Life, and that is a multimodal exercise program that meets 2 times a week. It contains a cardiac, a balance, a strengthening, and a flexibility section. We're also offering a Tai Chi based program. It's called Moving for Better Balance. We're offering both of these out of our clinic twice a week at this point remotely. And other organizations around the valley are either offering or are in the midst of preparing to offer these or similar programs. So I'm aware that in the northern part of the valley up in Franklin County, there's lots of activity with respect to Tai Chi based programs being offered around in some of the senior centers. There are a couple of Tai Chi based programs. One is ours, Moving for Better Balance. There's a Tai Chi for Arthritis program that you should be able to find. And even today, the reason I was not here earlier is that we're training additional instructors who in Franklin County, Berkshire County, Hampden County, and we're trying to push this into Hampshire County as well, being prepared to increase the program offerings through the western part of Massachusetts. So really, I encourage you, through the organizations that you're connected to, ask about these programs in your interactions with your primary care providers. Ask about what they know about community resources for exercise, because as much as some changes are inevitable as we age, there's lots we can do to mitigate those changes and keep ourselves, as my own program says, as active and as independent for life as we possibly can. And that's what I have for you this morning.
A wonderful presentation, Regina. Thank you so much for giving us more of that physical part of, what contributes to falls. And then, those extra resources in and around the Pioneer Valley that we could take advantage of. I saw that Andy had posted in there that, many of your programs are free and virtual. So it's a wonderful way to get going if you are starting, to keep going if you have already started. And to just kind of, look for those opportunities. And again, to be an advocate for yourself in things that you want to try and do and really make your physical well-being around falls and in general better. So thank you, Regina. Okay, so we are on to our last speaker. We are going to welcome Liz Milner from Bay State Franklin Medical Center, a physical therapist. Liz.
Hi guys. So first I'm Liz. You really don't want to see me. I'm the inpatient physical therapist who works actually more in the ER setting. If you do happen to take a tumble and need emergency services, I'm the physical therapist that actually works in the inpatient setting. And I'm going to be the one to clear you for safety. Is there an additional assistive device you need to be using? Is there something we need to talk about in terms of, we're going to try to get to the bottom of why you fell in the first place? Unfortunately, we'll see a lot of falls at this time of year in terms of this is a wonderful time of year to start getting out and about. The summer heat is gone. And so you're really going to want to start getting back into your walking, back into those programs that you're going to get out and about. But now it's like, okay, well, sometimes your body just isn't quite primed and ready to get out and do all the things you've been used to doing, because now, honestly, COVID's made us a little sedentary. Let's be honest with ourselves and our bodies. So now the weather's nice. We're going to get out and about. And if you take a tumble, unfortunately, you're going to probably see me an inpatient. So that's kind of my role in terms of what we can do to facilitate you getting back into exercise. The program I want to talk a little bit about is called the Falls Prevention Initiative. It's called the FPI. It's a study actually that physical therapists have conducted that you are given 8 visits of actual skilled physical therapy. You come to the physical therapy clinic here on Sanderson Street in Greenfield. You talk to your primary care about getting a referral for the falls prevention program. You receive 8 physical therapy visits free, and it's a actual strengthening program that will get you kind of squared away with that when duration, intensity, frequency that we just learned about from Regina, that is so important to make those good habits now. So when the snowflakes fall and you're going to be homebound, what's going to keep you from falling in your home? This exercise program is kind of designed to set you up for success. All these programs are meant to create better habits for you, a better sense of self, just to kind of get you more squared away. The big one you're going to see in terms of, or unfortunately what I've been seeing in the ER, is where people are falling right now. Here's the data, because that's my job. I work in the ER. People getting out of bed in the morning. When you get out of bed in the morning, are you wrapped in the sheets? Are your feet safely on the floor? Is your body ready to stand, get you to the bathroom because we're rushing? So really just taking these extra steps to do fall prevention is really what physical therapy in the hospital setting is kind of looking at in terms of, okay, where can we kind of avoid some of these missteps, and then getting you into the right avenues to get your strengthening, your balance, like to get you enrolled in these programs that are so essential going through these winter months where I know you're not going to get out and get out and about. So in Franklin County, so here in Greenfield, our outpatient clinic is on 48 Anderson Street, and we offer the falls prevention program. And it is a referral from your doctor, or if you have a little bit of a misstep in the ER, I can refer you directly to them. And that's what we're really aiming to do, is that we want to get you enrolled in a formal fall program. And not that it's like it's seasonal or anything. I think we just did this on purpose. To get you set up so when the winter comes that you're not so vulnerable and sensitive to falling. And there's a psychological component to when you fall. There's that weakness physically and mentally that you've had a misstep, but this is that opportunity to get some skilled help with this, to get you back on your feet, enrolled, and taking control of falls. Falls are unfortunately an inevitable part of aging, but keeping your body strong, and you don't have to fall if you work on preventative measures. So it's really a matter of what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? That is my 2 cents.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Liz, for being with us and giving your 2 cents, for this Greenfield based resource. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And it was a great segue because we were going to break out into breakout rooms. And we think that perhaps we are a small enough group to be able to just kind of raise your questions here among the group so that everyone can hear what your concerns or questions might be, should you have them, either ones that you brought with you or that you perhaps thought of as we went along here. So I would like to open the floor to any questions, ask you to unmute and ask away.
I have a question. I'll start. So how does somebody access PT? Like if I, for individuals, like if I just, as for prevention, if I want to see a physical therapist, I've just noticed many people don't know that they can access that or their insurance pays for it. And I just wondered what you and, Regina think about that.
Physical therapy is a direct referral from your primary care physician. So you will need a referral from the doctor to go attend physical therapy. But it also can be a referral from your case manager who works at the doctor's office. You don't need to actually see your physician in person. You don't need to go to the doctors. You can call your primary care, the case manager, the nurse practitioner, the people, the staff that work for your doctor's office can make that direct referral for you. It's as easy as them clicking a CIS, just a button that just generates that referral. It's in your chart. So yes, we need an order from your doctor, but you don't need to see your doctor, if that makes sense. We have enough of a we're doctors of physical therapy, but so we have enough background to really be able to know if your doctor sends you to PT for falls, for balance, for strengthening, we handle, we know exactly kind of where to start. That's kind of what we're assessing, your needs individually. So you do need a referral, but you don't need to see your doctor in person.
And I guess I would add and emphasize, so yes, Andy, it is a Medicare covered service. And I would add and really emphasize that you don't need to wait until something challenging happens to ask for that referral. You know, if you feel as though you are not functioning quite as well as you have been, even if there's nothing dramatic, you know, heaven forbid a fall, right, that you've experienced, you can go ahead and ask for that referral. Because, you know, a little weakness, a little stiffness, a little loss of endurance, a little unsteadiness, right? If we can help you work on that early, it's much, much better to catch things early and help you improve something that might need improvement in the moment, and then refer perhaps from physical therapy to community-based programs that can help you maintain a pattern of physical activity that prevents you from sliding again, right? That's actually best case scenario. So I would really encourage you, don't wait until something challenging happens. Go ahead and ask for a referral. Have a physical therapist evaluate your movement system, right? Because as Liz said, right, we're the doctors of the movement system. And we can do, right, we can do an examination and help you develop a plan, you know, for really optimal health and movement through your life.
I have a question, just that, you know, it feels like fall prevention over the last, I don't know how many years, let's say the last decade, has really come into its own, and there are so many programs that are helping this. I just kind of was wondering about, you know, trends that you've seen, what helps people reach out, are people advocating for themselves, like what does that scene kind of look like, and how glad we are that it's more in the forefront, you know, people taking care of each other or of themselves through these programs, but, you know, taking that first step might be kind of hard. And so what makes people do that? What do you see? What are the trends?
So I guess I can start. I know that other people have a longer history actually in this very particular type of work than I do, but I can start. I think the experience of the people, you know, my own experience at this point, and based on what I've heard other folks say, is that it's actually hard for people to get started. It's challenging for people to reach out, and you know, whether it's there are perceived barriers with respect to transportation and cost and scheduling, a lack of information, a belief perhaps that that there's nothing to do about these issues anyway. I think that those are at least among, I think, some of the things that are barriers to people reaching out. I think, you know, fair to say part of the work that, you know, some of the providers here are trying to do is to network with each other and help each other figure out how do we make these programs more accessible, more appealing. And, you know, as Liz was talking, I wrote down some notes for myself that said, oh, I need to connect with Liz, because I think part of what we need to do is say, okay, you know, when they finish your falls prevention program at Bay State Franklin, wouldn't it be great, right, if there could then be a referral to a community-based program from there? So I think there are two levels at which some of these changes need to happen. You know, part of it has to happen at the provider level, and we need to do a better job of referring to each other and making clear that beyond whatever we might offer in our own kind of silo, there's more to be had. And then I think we need to listen really carefully to the folks for whom these programs could really be of some benefit, and find out from you what would be helpful with respect to your ability and willingness to access.
I think that this collaboration thing, you know, is so wonderful. And it's the reason why Andy said we need to do this during Falls Prevention Awareness Week. So we're so thankful that you all have come out. Andy.
I just want to speak to the barriers briefly, and I would love to hear what others, your invitation, Regina, for the participants here. But in our workshop in Matter of Balance, we do a lot of work on behavior change. And just to honor how difficult it is to get to exercise, to get to a PT. So some of the things we hear a lot are people are busy, people are caring for others, people are in pain, people to overcome those barriers are hopeless or discouraged. Depression around chronic conditions, like 80% of people who live with a chronic condition are dealing with hopelessness and depression. So there's real barriers for us to move toward health. And that's all of our programs in healthy living really tackle behavior change magic and wisdom, and really work with people to think about what's getting in the way and how do we come up with solutions together. So that's one great thing about being in a group with other folks who are also struggling, because we really tackle barriers and helping each other problem solve ways to overcome them. So just hats off to, in humility, for how hard it is for us to sometimes get from here to there. And sometimes it's just one little step, maybe just making that first phone call. So we make out, lastly, I'll just say some of the evidence-based programs we run in healthy living, the wisdom is to make small, tiny little action steps, and then when you have one step, you feel the results of it and move forward. We actually have a one-on-one program, y'all, at Enhanced Wellness, to help people who are struggling with behavior change over 6 months to actually move them toward that. So it's not easy. I'm so grateful you guys are here.
We do have one question in the chat. I wonder if we could have a 1-minute answer to the question, because we do have 3 other questions we want to answer before the end of the session. But Marcia and Norm have asked, would you speak about how exercise increases your muscle strength as evidenced in the Jewish rehab studies in the Boston facility years ago? Can anyone give us kind of a 1-minute response around muscle strength?
So I'm not familiar with that very particular study. However, the research literature with respect to the effect of strengthening exercises on strength is quite robust in general. There is solid evidence that, again, an appropriately dosed exercise program, and by appropriately dosed, particularly with respect to strengthening, what effective strengthening approaches require are exercise that's conducted targeting the major muscle groups at least 2 times a week for 8 to 12 repetitions, with resistance beyond just the resistance of your body, if you're already able to move it through space. So it maintains the numbers of fibers, it makes the fibers larger, and more larger fibers are able to produce more force. So there's my less than 1 minute response.
I think we should all do some kind of strengthening exercise right now. Thank you all. Thank you for that, Regina. So we did want to kind of wrap up with a couple of questions, or what we wanted to ask of either the panelists, but mostly the participants. We wanted to someone say, I want to answer the first question, I want to answer the second question, I want to answer the third question. And so the questions are, what did you learn today that you didn't know? What are the resources you're planning to access after this session? And what would you share with a friend or family member about either the agencies or the programs or services available in our area?
I'll jump in and just say I loved Regina's simple visual of posture and the notion of working muscle to combat natural bone progression is sticks with me.
And we will make this available so that, if you missed it or can't remember the images or some of the data on the slides, that you can go back and review. Okay, how about what resources are you planning to access after this? What sounded good to you? What do you think you might be able to take on in your lives, or the person that you may be concerned about? What might they be able to take on? No, Marcia.
Yeah. I didn't realize that the Y had some free programs that would be good to access. And I want to just for 1 second say that study was at the Jewish rehab. We used to just call it Hebrew when I worked in Boston. And they did this wonderful exercise program on, the elder. yeah, with weights and muscle training. And, they found that, they just, even if they were in a wheelchair, they had such an increase in their muscle tone. So I don't know if it's still going on, but you could look it up. Hebrew Rehab in Roslindale, that's what it was. So anyway, so thank you all for this great program. And I want to pass it on to a friend.
And also we'll have that resource list on our website available too, of just local fall prevention resources. So we're working on it and we'll make that available on our website for easy access. And the last question, Carol, we can't miss that one.
What would you share with a friend or family about what you heard today about the agencies and the services available in our area around fall prevention? Maybe Andy, you take that one. What would you share? What would you share?
Well, I'm inspired at the richness of our county, in that the range of services that are available for free or low cost. I'm inspired to work with each other, to cross-refer, and to make sure. I mean, I learned a lot about my colleagues and what they offer, and so just that there. I guess the overarching message would be that there's so many falls are preventable. There's a lot of angles to do that, and contact someone over, yeah.
And we did have Louise respond. Thanks to everyone. Great reminders of the need to exercise and available resources. Very helpful. I would share there was a lot available and some of it free. So this is a wonderful, demonstration of what there is available, things that we need to know and think about, and that just might motivate us to become safer and advocate for ourselves and really do something about preventing falls. So happy Falls Prevention Awareness Week. May you take it into the months ahead. And thank you so much for being with us. Thanks to our panelists, thanks to our participants, and everyone. Take care out there. Thank you.